I think now media simply has to ignore what's going on, for example, in Lebanon, because there's no way they can justify it now. So they can't justify it. It's obviously war crimes. They're wiping out whole villages. Um, and the way the media is dealing with Lebanon is simply to ignore it. So I think that, the project of the greater Israel, they're not going to stop. Um, I just can't see them stopping, and I don't really know a way out. But I know that we have to keep searching for the truth and finding the truth, and we have to keep putting, if you know the if the international humanitarian order is now defunct because Israel just committed genocide and nobody did anything, we still have our own morals. We still have our own moral compasses. We still know what's right and wrong. And I think we have to follow that and follow ourselves and follow alternative and independent media and to really know what's going on and listen to podcasts like this. I think that's the only thing we can really do at this point. But I don't think that fascist governments have a lifespan of about 8 or 9 years on the median. And Trump is tanking so badly. For him to steal the midterms, he'd have to have his brutal guys out there. They'd have to show up en masse. I just don't know if they're so energized this time to show up and try to stop people from voting. I think that gas prices and his utter disregard for especially the white man that voted for him and how their lives aren't gotten any better. I'm hoping that they're not going to come out and block the elections or do anything like that. And I think you're right about local elections, but there may be a role for the midterms to rein this stuff in. I don't know.
I wish it would. I wish I had this thought that, oh, well, if they win the midterms, they'll be able to stop this. But Joe was president when this all started. What indication do we have that the Democrats are enough of them that they're going to stop? I don't know. They had a majority with Obama and they were still deporting people left and right. I think it's all the same. It's all the same.
Well, it's true. It is all the same. It's all the same neoliberal, empire politics. And but at least we know that Israel is a settler colony. I don't know that we've made some progress.
Well, there is more awareness.
Genocide bad, right?
Well, that's why we say that Democrats are much worse than Republicans in the sense that they protect empire much more effectively. There's no difference between Tony Blinken and Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is a complete scumbag of a human, and Tony Blinken is a man about town, but they're all headed for the same place. They both want to see the genocide of the Palestinian people. They all believe in the Greater Israel Project. The only difference is Tony Blinken is a much more effective statesman than Stephen Miller could ever be. And that's the big difference.
And they've promised 100 million immigrants out of this country. That's ethnic cleansing. They're trying to do it here.
Well, they don't even hide it. I feel like it's not even a secret. That's why I don't know why they call people anti-Semitic for calling you out. You seem so proud of it. I don't understand how it's a problem. Did you see, Robin, Stephen Miller using his wife as the human shield? Did you see this?
Yes.
And steering her with her breast. Did you see him holding her by her breast and steering her as a human shield through the crowd?
Did you see Kash Patel hiding under a table? He's the FBI.
But do you agree? This was my thought that I said before, as somebody, and I went to journalism school very many years ago. But as somebody who has more of a mindset of I used to want to be like Edward R. Murrow, right? This was where I'm coming, old school, right? Those people would have never gone to a White House correspondence dinner. To me, the fact that exists, the fact that exists is the failure of the Fourth Estate. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the idea that to be a good journalist, to be an intrepid journalist, to be a muckraker, investigative journalist, you have to have passion. You have to, you have to be intelligent. You have to give people background information. You know, it's a big job for big people with big hearts and big intellect. These people in media, you know, they're supposed to be seasoned journalists, and yet they're falling for the worst war propaganda that was invented during the First World War with babies and raping women, and then we repeat it in the 21st century. It's the same stuff, and these people are supposed to know what they're doing. They've been hanging out with government officials too much. Remember that movie, the front page? It was Ron Howard movie, and
I'm gonna have to see it now.
And then when the editor tells, I think it was the Glenn Close character, don't have lunch with these people. You're not going to have lunch with. You're not going to be friends with these people.
You're talking about The Paper. That was a very good
The Paper, yes, The Paper. That was it.
Yeah, no, that was yeah.
Well, that's where we've become now. But the problem is that the only way that people can even have access to those spaces, like the press room, are because they're team players. If they weren't, they don't have access. But I would suggest that we don't need access because they don't ever tell you the truth anyway. Like, I don't understand why anybody shows up at those press conferences.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Why do you think they go?
Yeah.
I think they go because of this relationship that journalists in DC, in the Beltway, have with the White House, and if they don't get the quote, and then everybody winds up getting the quote, and that's why it's also standardized. And I think you're right. The White House correspondents dinners, so those people used to organize the people that were allowed to get into the press. That's now done by the White House. And and you know, Trump never went to a correspondence dinner before. He was always
interesting, right? And this one he happens to go to.
So interesting. And now all of a sudden, did you notice how everybody was on message? All of the influencers, the right wingers. We need the ballroom, but the ballroom wasn't at the ballroom. You're not going to be in
the greatest ballroom you've ever seen, and there won't be any more shootings. I can promise you. That's the way it's going to be. Let's end on a positive note. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to slide in this clip, but this is actually something that's what this shows.
What are you showing?
No, you'll like it. What this shows, what we've always talked about, the indelible human spirit that is personified by the Palestinian people cannot be overstated. It just can't be. To go what they've gone through, what they're still going through, and yet they just had their first elections.
I'm surprised they just don't bomb the entire voting site. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, you want to give them more ideas?
They don't need my suggestions. I assure you, they've come up with stuff that I never could have imagined in my whole. I would have been happy not knowing a lot of the things I now know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then notice how the mainstream media has completely ignored the Francesca Albanese report on torture and rape.
Oh. No, they just keep sanctioning
that answers
her.
The rape story right there, right?
They just sanction her. We'll just sanction her. That'll be it. We'll fix the problem by taking away any access she has to her life.
Won't somebody please acknowledge what happened on October 7th? Can't we just acknowledge that?
But do you condemn her?
But do you condemn?
Yeah. Yeah, they called in the Hannibal directive, and they killed civilians. And we'll never know, because they'll cover it up, and there's no evidence now. We'll never know how many civilians were actually killed by Hamas and how many civilians were actually killed by the Apache helicopters bombing indiscriminately at the rave, and the tanks shooting into the kibbutz Be'eri and Al Farah that destroyed those buildings. That
I
was
know,
those
I
weren't
think
Hamas.
I will err on the side of reason and logic and Occam's razor. And I'm going to say that the vast majority of people were killed by Ziohel, because the Palestinians, for the most part, and I know there were people that got over that border that weren't part of the thing. I know that stuff happened, but their goal was to do a prisoner exchange. Their
Yes.
goal was
Right.
to be able to get some of their people being held there freed. So it wouldn't make sense for
No.
them to go and kill a whole bunch of people now, would it? It would
Right.
make sense for them to take them and keep them and hold on to them and treat them well, considerably. So that's
And
why
how
I
many
think that
and
they
and
killed their own. They killed
And
their
how
own.
many prisoners? How many prisoners did they have? They said that that there was several hundred Israeli prisoners that were taken. I think it ended up being like 200 or whatever the number was. Do you guys remember what the number was of how many Palestinian hostages that Israel had? 10,000.
10,000.
Yeah. Yeah. In detention, they just take them and leave them in jail and do whatever they want to them. These aren't charges. These are kidnapped. These are hostages.
They're hostages. Agreed.
Yeah.